Thank you, SSN and Portent, for hosting. Absolutely, always excellent venue here and a good view all around. So, like Miles, I have a few phrases I hate. Miles has link juice. For me, it's when people say things like great content, and content is king. That's the one that really makes me curdle. Before we get too deep, I'm doing this exact same presentation next week in Dallas, so I can't share this publicly yet because I'm supposed to keep it private before then. But I will have the slides public a week from now, and if you want them earlier, I'm happy to send them to you, and that is my email, or my Twitter handles, or whatever, are on the bottom of every screen on here. So find me, get a hold of me, and I can send them to you. I'd be happy to do that earlier. So back to the phrases I hate. Content is king, we're not going to cover today because that one really gets me. But great content is one that you hear a lot more frequently, and I think it's misunderstood because it's always a like a catch-all. Like, I don't have time to tell you what I really mean, so I'm going to say great content and hope that you just kind of lay off the question. Right? It's really undefined, and the people that know what it means don't need to hear it, and the people that don't know what it means are the ones that are asking the questions that gets the answer that somebody says, well, just focus on great content from there and you'll be fine. So this presentation is meant to actually show you what I think great content looks like. And so we're going to go through a bunch of examples. But first I want to talk about a couple high-level things related to what I think great content is about. I'm not going to focus today on stuff like bullets and columns and the images you should put in your content because I've done that before and it's all here nice and easy for you to access. That'll take you to a page on our site that has the SlideShare from a WordCamp presentation I did that goes through all these WordPress plugins and basic stuff like quit doing lists as commas and put them into bullets and stuff like that. So I kind of consider that the basic nuts and bolts of creating better content, and I don't want to rehash that today. It's hmny.co, there's no M, and then WC30 tools. And if you just go like 2 years back in our blog, which doesn't take long, it's in there too. So at a really high level, all the SEO people here in the room know, we've got different audiences that we're serving with our content. The first one, of course, is the users, the customers, the people, if you're not a fan of the word users. The second one is our organization, right? Content has to serve a purpose for us, otherwise it's just extra URLs, and the web doesn't need any more, as Miles just showed you. And our third audience is, of course, non-humans, the robots, the search engines that we have to appease with our content, right? So great content is really about balancing the needs of all of these users in a way that's effective at the end of the day for the organization. This is a checklist that comes from a post on WordStream by a woman named Alyssa Gabbert, whose content I really like. She's got this nice formula and goes deeper into all of these, but describing great content more in terms of characters and traits, right? And she says findable, relates back to the SEO side of things. Shareable for the off-site side of things. People want to share it. It's usable. It's readable, going back to the design, the obvious visual aspects of the content. It's memorable and quotable, which I think is an obvious one. It's actionable. There's a purpose to the page, and it guides the user to do something. And it's reportable, which we're going to talk about a little bit more, because a big part of what I want to focus on today is the purpose and the goal that you have for content on your website and beyond. So there's a few things that kind of baselines, more stuff I'm not going to talk about today that I want to get out. The defined purpose and the goal is what we're really going to focus on. But then there are things like good site architecture, making content findable. These are essentials. If somebody can't find the great content on your website, is it really that great? And then feedback loops. And the concept here is finding an objective way to measure whether content is performing according to its purpose and its goals, rather than some guy at the front of the room arbitrarily telling you this is good content, right? So putting that in place so that you have some way to measure it for yourself instead of just asking people, hey, is there any way I can improve this? So the format of this presentation is really going to be centered around defining the purpose and goals of your content so that you can go and determine whether you're doing well or you're doing great. And so we define goals for content, kind of on a typical sales funnel, customer life cycle, whatever concept you really prefer. In case you didn't know, every agency has their own styled version of a sales funnel. This happens to be ours, but it's really the same as the ones you've seen, AIDA and things like that. We have an awareness stage, building brand awareness, hopefully with our target audience. Nobody's making a purchase yet. They're just finding out about the company. From there, people go on into kind of an engagement stage, maybe consideration of products and services, maybe just subscribing to the blog, staying in touch with the brand. Some of them will get closer to a conversion point where they're actually giving us money or doing some kind of sub-conversion that we want. And finally, we have a retention stage, post-sales funnel, if you will, where somebody has given us money and we've got a whole bunch of different actions that we want them to take from there. That could be things like recurring revenue, repeat purchases. We want them to leave us a review. We want them to send us referrals. So we've got different forms of content on our websites that need to serve all of these different goals. And so what we're going to do today is go through a case study through each stage of the sales funnel and look at what good awareness content looks like, what good engagement, conversion, retention content looks like. So starting out at the top, brand awareness. This is always what people seem to talk about when they talk about great content. They'll show you this really cool example that blew up the internet and went viral and all these things. So let's start there and get that out of the way. Our goal with awareness content is building brand visibility with our target audience. Brand visibility for the sake of just getting visibility doesn't help anyone unless you get some links and social shares out of it, but those are really sub-goals, vanity metrics as we like to call them. And so our reporting loop for how this type of content is performing is all of this typical top of funnel type of stuff. Traffic, page views, links to that page or section of content, social shares. None of these make us any money, but they all help our site overall, and they can help other pages of the site that do generate money. So I don't like building awareness content that only serves these purposes. I really like awareness content where I can double dip, right? Awareness content where I can get some conversions out of it, or I can build up newsletter subscribers, things like that. So let's dive into an example here. This is a query. It's hard to see on there, but a guide to Malibu, right? We've got somebody that's just they're planning a trip, they're visiting their friend in LA, they want to go to the beach for a few days, so we look up guide to Malibu. One of the first things that shows up here is Malibu.org. And you'll see as we scan down the page here, it's pretty blank. It's got this big, beautiful sunset on a magazine cover. But when you click on it, you get sent to a digital PDF. Sucks on mobile if you can load it. It kind of sucks on desktop too, because you got to click in there and do that zoom thing like it's one of those retail ads that comes out every Sunday on bestbuy.com or something. You're looking and zooming in on all these ads, you got to flip over a page and then zoom in again. It's a really mediocre experience. And that's all that's on the page, right? So on the good side, kind of breaking this down, we've got lots of words, which we love as SEOs and content people because search engines love them and people tend to link to it more. But you can't find it. Users have a hard time opening it up. Search engines don't even view it as part of your site, so you're not getting any credit for providing that content. And kind of in the middle of the good to bad range, we've got lots of ads in there. I don't hold that against them. That's their business model. That's the only way they can afford to print the thing in the first place, so that has to be there. But it definitely is a credibility strike as I'm reading through there and trying to get tips about where to stay and things like that. And there's some photos, but it's one or two, and it's not like I don't need to keep going online to research more from there. So this, I would say, is an acceptable piece of content for the search guide to Malibu, right? It's not winning any awards, but I found some useful stuff. It was all right. Second example here is wikitravel.org. And you can see, scanning down the page, we've got all the crawlable content in the world, but it's a little bit boring. Wiki Travel, for those of you that aren't familiar, is just like Wikipedia, but it's travel only. So it's all user-generated content. People log in there and type, here's a hotel, phone number, website, pretty basic stuff. It's handy to get a list of things to do in the area, and then they've got it broken out by see, do, stay, buy, eat, kind of simple layout. So there's lots of words. Search engines like it. On the downside, they're only partially unique, right? Almost all the words on the page are just business descriptions, and most of the time, the little editorial value, what that's referring to is almost all the content on this site is travel companies that go post the name of their business and a semi-objective statement. And I know this because I was in the travel industry doing this. I'm the one posting these links to the business, right? So there's not a lot of, it gives me a list of, okay, these businesses are probably around, I can check them out. There's a little bit like vibe of a restaurant, but it's not like there's editorial value, like you really got to check out the seafood biscuit, this place, it's incredible, and you can't believe it if there is. And there's no photos, so it's pretty boring, right? I have to go somewhere else to really get anything else out of it. So this is an example from Airbnb. And for this category, this is what I would say is the closest to great content. You can kind of see in the GIF as it's scanning there, they've got a map, a little information about Malibu, and then more or less an entire magazine full of photos dedicated to kind of showing off the vibe of the town, right? And this is just one page, the Malibu page, of an entire Los Angeles section of content, and they've got these for 20 or 30 or 40 cities where they do most of their business. So, you can't, this is only a 6-second repeating loop. You can't see probably 2/3 of the photos that are still on this page afterwards. So breaking this one down, what's good about it? Well, there's some words, right? We've got a little text talking about getting to Malibu and stuff. I'd say that's the one place the page could improve. There's more copy, right? There's not too much related to restaurants and specifically breaking them down. It's very scannable. I can scan through the page, look at pretty photos, stop and read the captions if I like. There are tons of internal links that pull users down the funnel. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got these cool little tag clouds, right? And they just kind of look like a nice design. It says things like beachy, celebrities, loved by Angelinos, peace and quiet, stunning views, touristy. But what you can't tell on this slide is that when you click on those, and I click on stunning views, I get sent to a page of Airbnb units in Malibu with stunning views. Right? So I'm immediately getting taken from an awareness piece of content into what's almost close to a conversion point. And if I'm a repeat or a recurring type of visitor, somebody that's stayed in Airbnb before, I can go right to the units that I want, right? Like, yeah, I want something with a view in Malibu. Perfect. So it's good awareness content because it gets users down the funnel without really cheating them or making them feel like you're selling to them. It's still a useful resource. No ads, lots of photos. Right? All in all, I'd chalk this up as the best piece of content for that phrase. So moving down the funnel a little bit, we've got brand engagement. And I'd say the goal of brand engagement is building up consideration for your visitors and educating them on your products and services. And so metrics that we're measuring this by are things like email subscriptions, repeat visitors, content downloads. That's kind of the softer, long-term side of engagement and consideration. We're also talking about getting people from awareness content, just general interest stuff, over to maybe product category pages, things like that. And so in a situation like e-commerce, we're talking about maybe informational content that helps somebody research a purchase, right? There's still a purchase intent attached to what they're doing. It's not broad interest, but they're not quite ready to buy yet. So the example that we're looking at here is how to pack a hiking pack. I want to go backpacking, so I'm going to search how to pack the thing because I got to fit $300 worth of gear in this tiny little sack. So one of the first ones you'll see on the page is Osprey Packs. And it's a great company, but a mediocre page to answer the question. You can see it scrolling down to the bottom there, and it comes up really quick because there's not much there. So breaking this down a little, we've got a bunch of photos at the top of the page, and they've got comments like, that looks pretty good, kind of sloppy, but okay. But this is all meaningless to me because this is actually blown up. When I look at the page, it's not that big. I can't click on any of these photos and see the bigger version. They're all kind of like, I don't know, there's just a mountain of Gore-Tex standing there. I can't really tell where pack is and where coat is. So it's, okay, maybe if I'm a hardcore outdoor guy, I can look at that and say, yeah, okay. Doesn't really mean much to me. We've got about 2 paragraphs of content, super high-level stuff, like barely answers the question, how to pack a pack. And then the one redeeming trait of this page is a really nice graphic with 5 words in it, 4, dense and heavy, light and compressible. All right, so I can at least get out of this that I need to put the heavy stuff against my back, light stuff on top. All right, I got something. I kind of answered the question, but it doesn't tell me where I'm supposed to put the cook set. Is that light? Is that heavy? What if I got the ultralight one? It's really kind of obscure. And that's all that's there on the page. So we've got 191 words, bad for search engines, bad for users in this scenario. 4 difficult to view photos, 1 graphic, the redeeming trait of the page, and 1 link in the body, right? 1 link to a PDF checklist of things you should pack. All right, that's a nice aspect of the page, but it doesn't really help me out that much. They should be giving me tons of links to go deeper into the site, get more educational content, learn more about pack technology, whatever. So this is adequate. It ranks, but that's it. The next example is a business called Tortuga Backpacks, and you can see in the GIF there, they start out at the top of the page with an infographic, so there's a great visual element. They break it out into 3 chunks, and then we've got a couple videos on the page too that talk about sizing and how to wear the pack and stuff like that. Pretty traditional e-commerce stuff, you know, a shop drop down and a checkout cart at the top, so not a lot of resources in there, but not a bad page. We've got a pretty decent graphic, although they're telling me to put all the lightweight stuff at the bottom, so I'm not sure who I'm supposed to believe now. But I will at least give them that they've put in context, like pack heavy items like shoes, laptop, camera. All right, that's a little bit more handy. These guys focus on Euro backpacking, not mountain backpacking, so they're taking more of that kind of packing approach. So they tell me what to put where. And breaking this down, we've got about 550 words on the page, adequate. It's not long form by any means, and a number of about that much matching copy in the graphics that says the same thing. 2 videos, which is great. Nice visual graphic and matching images broken up, which is also great. They can take those broken up images, put them on other pages. 0 links in the body. Huge missed opportunity for them to tell me why their packs are better, why their packs are built for city backpacking and not being humped around a mountain. For me to research more about what I should be packing on a 10-day Europe trip versus the 4-month long one. So there's an enormous missed opportunity, which is really the big factor of this page that I'd say was missing out. So our third example, the one I'd say that actually qualifies as great, and the reason it ranks number 1 is the REI page. And I hate using brands like Airbnb and REI for good content examples because they always get used for those examples, but there's a reason for it. We've got a nice video, we've got who the author was, we've got graphics that I can click on and dive into, we've got a big table there. This thing is dense, right? They break down ultralight versus lightweight versus cheaper gear, so I know what to expect for size and weight. So they've got the page that's targeted both at a beginner and an advanced user. We're meeting the needs of a bunch of different audiences, knowing that if I'm looking for this how to load a backpack page, might be my first time on a 3-day backpacking trip, or I might just be some 3-week experienced backpacker that's looking for a couple extra tips, or they're serving a bunch of different users. Got a video top and center. It's a really nice, well-produced video, not a guy standing against a wall. It's got the football John Madden scribble thing going on in white pen. So we've got a really nice piece of content. Breaking it down, 1,800 words. That's great. That's a dense bit of content, right? I can really dive into that and there's something to chew on. I've got a full video. I'd say if they're lacking anywhere, it's that they have 2 images on the page. I've got a dense table that kind of gives me some more information, and 16 links in the body that send me to product category and additional learning resources. They're really taking advantage of the fact that I may already own a backpack, but maybe I don't own an ultralight stove that cooks with some fancy fuel that I should be thinking about. They're educating me about the other things I'm going to need to think about for my hike, sending me to those educational resources, and sending me to the product pages where I can buy it from them and get my member dividend and all that other good stuff. So I would call that a great piece of content, and it very clearly ranks number 1 for that phrase before a handful of images. So conversion content. Conversion content, if you're e-commerce, this is your product page, maybe category pages. If you are a lead gen business, this is your services page, your quote page, contact page, things like that. If you're a software company like we're about to look at, it might be your pricing page, which is the example we're going to take a deeper look at. And our metric is $signs, right? Number of leads and what they're worth, or actual checkout revenue. So the big caveat here is I can stand up and tell you what I think is the best example of all these pages, but the first one that I show you as a mediocre example might make more money than any of the rest. So With conversion content, hopefully you're not making subjective decisions. Hopefully you are split testing different variations, long form, short form, photos, tables, whatever, and seeing what actually converts best for your users. Because I could go through and tell you a bunch of stuff, and each one of them could drag your conversion rate down by 8%, and, well, sorry, it's free show. I don't know what you expect. So the example that I'm using here is project management software, and I'm using this because in our office, this is what we've been dealing with for about a week now, is researching the 80 different options that are available. So the first example here is called Rei. Nice looking page, big background on it. We've got our typical three grid pricing thing, and then this dense table, and then keyword stuff footer that I don't like. We dive in, and like you can get some real in-depth content in each of these rows, right? I hover over every one of these, and I've got a paragraph or two of text, and then it breaks them down by freemium, paid, or enterprise, what each form of the software has. So the good, there's plenty of words, lots of content on the page. It's all hidden inside of hover tips. If you don't feel like sorting through that table, sorry, you don't want to pay us. Pretty clear list of features, but again, all inside the table. No links to feature pages. This is a big one as far as split testing what I say is good versus what's bad, because when I'm looking at this page, I want to click on file sharing, and I want you to tell me every single detail about your Dropbox integration and all of this other crap, right? I'm researching you. I know our office probably had 20 must-have criteria for a piece of software, and then an additional 90 that I didn't articulate well, that I just ruled stuff out arbitrarily as I was shown different examples. I want to click on all of these and research whether or not it's going to fit my needs, and there's like 50 rows of this stuff. But they might have found by split testing that removing the links got a 20% increase in trials, so what do I know? This is just what I want from the page. 3 call to actions. We've got sign up now if you want to be freemium. We've got start free trial if you want to be a paid plan. And we've got contact us for enterprise. So they're letting users self-select, which can work okay, but I'd be curious to see what they get out of start free trial across all of those, or sign up now for freemium and then we'll talk about paying us, that kind of thing. So that could be good, could be bad, I don't know. Next example is Trello. They have a little bit different pricing page in that they start you out free no matter what, and then you can upgrade my organization. And hidden down in text, we see $5 per user per month or $45 per user per year for the organization. So they've got pricing, but they hide it a little bit in the text there. We see they do a better job of breaking out features into these, full width startup looking sections that's so trendy right now. Nice 5 feature benefits that they break down. They've got some links there. That's it, there. To more information about the features that they're promoting. So there's some words. It doesn't really feel complete to me, but I think part of that is because Trello focuses on a very simple platform that you can mold to your needs. So as a user that doesn't necessarily want that and wants a little bit more complexity, it's a turnoff to me, but I could be a lower lifetime value conversion for them, so that could be a good thing. Hard to say. Pricing's pretty simple, but it's obscured in text only. Like, all I see is a big green button, and then they tell me the price. But very clear call to action. Upgrade my organization, and it's about me, not about them. It doesn't say pay us, it says upgrade my organization. So I like that. Altogether, I'd say this is okay, and I'm sure they're split testing it, and I just saw one version. Third example here is for a company called Redbooth, and this actually is the one we ended up choosing, so I don't know if that's why I liked it or not, but we've got a really simple yet complicated pricing tier here at the top. We've got some icons on core features, checklists for sub-features. We've got social proof, a testimonial from some large company, and a bunch of other brand labels for all the other cool companies that use their software. FAQ, so we've got a really diverse page in terms of content. If I want to dig into icons or whatever, if that's what I like, I've got that. If I just want the pricing, it's right there for me, very clear. And if I want the social proof, I wouldn't say if I want the social proof. If I haven't heard of them and they've got a bunch of logos of big companies there, it's a nice thing for me to see that and say, all right, so they're legit. They're not going to go out of business in 6 months. So very nice page that helps me convert and say I want to see more. Word count's okay, acceptable for a page of this nature, 450 words. Very scannable, pricing is clear, it's got the testimonials, consistent call to action of start free trial. If I had anything weird, I would say that they only do a try now on Enterprise, and if I want this plan or this plan, I still have to try now on Enterprise, so there's a little conversion confusion there, I think, but I don't think it's harming much. And I wish there were more feature links. So we've got this blue section with 40 checklists. Just like the first example from Reich, I want to dive into all of those and see more information about the features. And this isn't just a conversion issue, this is also a search issue, right? So if this says, I don't know, let's go back to the file sharing example. So we've got file sharing integrations. If I'm searching for project management software for marketing agencies, Dropbox integration, having that dedicated landing page about their file integrations means they're going to rank for a very specific term with a clear buying incentive, right? So there's a search play here. They could be building 50 internal links to all these great landing pages that I could be finding them through, but they're not. Again, hopefully they're split testing it, but that's what I would change and at least test if it was my page to manage. So our final stage is retention. As I said before, this is all the stuff that happens after the first time they give you money. Our goal here is to have them keep giving us money, or tell other people to give us money, or just say nice things about us in public, all the things that we want our customers to do. We've got a bunch of R's here: recurring and repeat revenue, referrals, reviews, retention. It's just a bunch of R's. They're all nice and grouped together for us. So my example here, my case study, is turn off iMessage, switch to Android. Very long tail and yet specific. Anyone in here switch from an iPhone to an Android phone? 1. All right. Well, make that 2 because I faced this issue 9 months ago when I did just that. And I had a Canadian friend that wanted to buy an iPhone 4S because apparently they're like $500 there. So I said, yeah, that's fine. I'll sell it to you, whatever. He came down, I met him, I gave him the phone, I got the new phone. And a week later, I have all these friends saying, why aren't you answering my texts? And I said, well, shit, I don't know, you didn't text me. As it turns out, Apple keeps you on iMessage if you don't properly turn it off before you get off the phone. And so what we've got here are pages like the Android switch page. To their credit, they identify it. Don't forget to turn off iMessage, right? But it's in the middle of like, let me get the animation going here. In the middle of an enormous section of here's how to switch your music, here's how to switch your contacts, here's how to do all this other stuff. And I will say, I read like 3 of these switching guides to make sure I had it all covered. I did not see the part about iMessage, so I read the wrong page apparently. So we've got something here. It doesn't really answer my question, but it ranks well for the phrase. Turn off iMessage before you remove the SIM. All right, thanks. It doesn't do me any good. My phone's gone. Okay. No dedicated page for this solution. It's the only mention of iMessage on the android.com domain. Seems like a lost opportunity for me because as I switch to an Android, I've got all these iPhone friends that say, oh, how do you like it? And I say, I'm pissed. I can't get my text messages. This is something Android wants to address, right? Doesn't solve my problem unless I read it before switching, which most people probably don't read it clearly enough. Most people still have their phone around, but if they broke it, dropped in water, sold it, whatever, they're out of luck. Doesn't link to deeper resources, right? Should be a link under Switch iMessage that goes to the complete guide to switching and turning off iMessage. This is the Apple part of it, and if I'm pissed off at anybody in this situation, it's Apple, right? It's their monopolistic tendency that caused my messages to never leave their weird ecosystem. So, to their credit, they have this. If you don't have access to your iPhone, or if you can't deactivate iMessage from your iPhone after doing these other 9 bullets, please contact Apple support. Support for this issue is free. So, all right, there's my 60-minute solution. Maybe there's a better one, but at the very least, I can call Apple, and supposedly they will fix it in 5 to 10 days if I'm at home from 9 to 5 a.m. or something like that. 48% of people found this helpful, so I'm not the only one in the camp that doesn't really enjoy it, right? But to their credit, their support pages are at least implementing a feedback loop about whether or not they're working. Now, this is probably going off into ether and not getting touched by one of the geniuses over there that should be updating this content. I say that lovingly. But it's there. So short word count doesn't list all the solutions, no photos, no visual guides showing me how to do it. Probably results in a lot of phone calls, which means Improving this page probably saves Apple like $1 million a year or something, right? You look at the trend of Android phones versus iPhone phones. This is probably a cost center of support for them. People pissed at Apple for not turning this off for them. So fixing this page means dollar signs in their support costs, right? Content is not just about new sales, it's about not paying people to have to support all the sales you lost. But to their credit, the green thing, they do have a solution if all else fails. The great piece of content, Samsung comes to the rescue. Look at all these photos, right? I've got, here's how to turn off iMessage if you still have your phone and sign out of it. Here's how to turn it off if you have a Mac and can go into your fancy account center. Fairly long page, broken up by section. And then here at the end, wait for it, there, we've got an enormous section asking me if I have had my question answered, how satisfied I was with this content. Would you have contacted Samsung using another channel if this content had not been available, so that the person managing this content can tell you that they saved you 1 million support calls this year by upgrading it, right? Feedback loop that makes the content team look really smart when the CEO says, what are you doing for me? And finally, tell us what you think so that you can tell them how happy they are that they said this. Change the password for your Apple ID. All devices using iMessage will be reauthorized and you will be switched to SMS. I wish I had that in March and not before this presentation, because I had to call Apple and spend an hour on a support line. But I digress. Samsung comes to the rescue, and I'm fairly happy with Samsung, conveniently enough. Long form solution, tons of possible ways that I can fix this. It's a scannable page, very clear request for feedback and building a feedback loop into their content that generates a quantifiable value to their team in terms of cutting costs. And it actually contains the answer I need. They don't have the part about calling Apple support, but they've got a better answer, so I'll give them that. So here's the wrap up, and what I really want you guys to walk away with is that great content is only great if it is serving the specific purpose that it was designed for, right? I don't care if you get 100 links and 2,000 shares to your support page if it's a bunch of people pissed off that you're not fixing the solution for them, right? Different goals for different pages. In the form of a content audit, you should be identifying the 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 funnel stages that a piece of content should be serving, and that's going to determine what the metrics are that you use to measure the performance of that page. And add photos, because every one of these examples was served by visual guides, not just long-form text pages. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. I've got time for Q&A as well.
Yeah, let's devote 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A.
Perfect.
Who's got questions?
Yeah, so I was kind of curious, you focused a lot on the sales funnel, and I was wondering when you're developing the content strategy, is that a key to focus on each part of the sales funnel for each client, or is that kind of more determined by the client, keyword research, that kind of thing?
So in terms of like an agency client kind of thing, clients will come to you and say, well, I want links, I want traffic, I want money, whatever. Everybody's got their thing. We'll have the conversation with them to try and break down their actual goal, not the metric that they're trying to track, because then we can suggest A, the tactics that will support that, and B, whether or not that's actually what they should be focused on. But yeah, we absolutely determine that. We've had clients come to us that don't care about SEO. They rank number 1 for everything on earth they could rank number 1 for, but they need to get in front of more CIOs, CTOs. So what kind of content can you produce for it, and how can you get it in front of that audience for us, because they're not searching for this stuff. So that is not a top of funnel, well, it's an awareness solution, but it's not a search problem, right? So there's a channel issue that's maybe not a search thing. So we had to put on a different hat and approach that differently. But really, they wanted conversion, right? We don't just want more traffic or more rankings. We want conversions, and we want engagement from a very specific audience. And then we can handle the retention. We can handle all the SEO. So that was 2 very specific funnel stages that they were focused on. At the same time, you might have clients that are getting tons of support costs. I don't think they would contact a search or a content agency, even though those types of companies have a lot to offer them, but usually we will identify all the goals across the funnel, or try to with clients, and show them the other ways we can be helpful rather than the one thing they contacted us about. So it's a really helpful framework I find for showing people the different ways that content can perform for you rather than just things like links and social traffic or whatever it is. So yes, use the funnel.
When you're writing content, especially for the conversion phase, where you're writing like a sales letter, you're about to sell something.
Right.
And you go into the features and benefits, how do you draw out the benefit from the feature? Do you have a process or a language pattern you use that you go over with yourself when you're writing the copy?
Yeah.
Out of it?
I'm not the best copywriter.
Okay.
So I recognize that and try and bring somebody in that's better than me, especially for conversion landing page type content. Yeah, the whole features benefits thing throws me for a loop sometimes too. I think features are the numbers, right? One of my very first jobs in high school was selling speakers and TVs and stuff at Best Buy, right? So yes, you can tell them all the ohms and impedance and all these other weird numbers that they can see on the bulleted card, but telling them that that one's going to be the better choice for their money, and here are the 3 reasons why that weren't related to just stats and numbers, that was a bigger part of the sales process, showing them the additional stuff that could support it. So if you can address the need and solving the pain point more than just highlighting the features that you have, like Dropbox integrations or whatever, I think that's the place to start. And then there's so many different things. Megan probably has more to say about it than I do, so I'll let her take it.
Well, I was just going to say that it depends on the industry, right? It depends on the product. So, like, if I'm looking for a jigsaw puzzle for my kid, I want to know straight away how many pieces are there, is it a Pokemon theme, like whatever, and then you can go on and tell me how durable it is and like all this stuff. Then I'll be impressed, right? But first I have to be sold the specifics. But if I'm getting like a weekend away with my husband and I want to look at this hotel, I want to know about the experience. I want to know like how I'm going to be like, how I'm going to feel like totally lavish and comfort and all this stuff. And then I want to know the specifics. What, like, do you have a spa? Like all this stuff. Like, are there hiking trails around? So it depends on, you have to do a little bit of audience and like ecosystem research and know, what the user is looking for. Do they want specifics first and then the experience, or do you want to get them like, introduce them to the experience first and then give them specifics?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I've got a few links to share with you that I think might be helpful. And these guys had a couple hands up too.
Yeah, so in Miles' presentation, there was mention of using schema.org structured data for disambiguation.
Yes.
Does that play a role in the content you create or in the effectiveness of that content?
Schema specifically?
Yeah. Does it play
Yeah. I mean, on the technical side, that's a portion of good content. It's the visibility side, sure. Very nuts and bolts. That's definitely why I haven't gotten into it. But in terms of stuff like social, all of the open graph tags, Twitter cards, stuff like that, making that as shareable as possible is definitely an element that you do on a page-by-page basis. And at a high level, site structure, a lot of the stuff Miles was talking about, you go through the checklist, right? You make sure Yoast is totally done, or you do it all by hand if you're on some crappy CMS that doesn't let you do it easily. That's the answer. I don't know. That's the technical side, so I don't like to hit people over the head too hard with it. But yes, schema.org definitely is a component of it.
Yeah, because Ben Lloyd said the same thing. Schema.org, yes.
Yes.
Just use it.
Just yes. If you know what it means, yes, do it. If you don't know what it means, hire one of the guys that knows what it means.
I was just going to ask about sourcing. You made it pretty clear that images are great for content, and a lot of these were screenshots. But like in the Airbnb example, they probably would have had to source from someplace. Where do you recommend?
Airbnb hired local photographers and then gave them a credit at the end. And I don't know if they paid them or not, but I'd be willing to bet the link from that page was enough for me as a photographer to say, screw it, I'll just do it. So that's one way, but pay them too, so you're not a cheapskate.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you recommended. Like,
Yeah.
Using
Yes.
Flickr.
Yeah.
Or Google, looking for commercial type content you can use, trying to find the best.
Yeah, I'd go for a cheap stock photo site and then go to a tool that's free like canva.com and just put a vignette and some white text over it. It's such a cheap, free way to make something not look like a crappy stock office photo with 10 people sitting around a table together. So take all those stock photos and just stick them behind text, right? Like that. Like, imagine there was a photo behind this. That's all.
How does the the funnel changes when you have a longer cycle of sales? Specifically the conversion, do they just get stuck in brand awareness, or is there a way to kind of move them down?
So you're probably, are you talking, well, maybe not B2B. B2B is a common long lead cycle, but homeowners or something could be a B2C. Right.
Consulting for insurance companies, it's a very long cycle.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're working on awareness in terms of being the ones in the industry. So repeating the question for all the people that can't hear, he's talking about long sales cycles, right? Somebody takes 6 months, 20 months, years to actually buy your service. You're working on awareness, building that up as much as you can for the long term, but you're also working in the short term about building up your email list and subscribers, getting people to engage with you, because if they find out about you now and don't need the actual service for 9 months, 24 months, the email list, and to a much lesser extent, social followers are the absolute best way to keep them in touch with you. So you're looking at lead nurturing cycles. Sign up for our monthly newsletter. We don't hit you over the head with emails. We just send you the absolute best industry stuff. Sign up for our weekly series, 52 weeks of ways to improve your business until you're ready to hire us, whatever it is. That type of stuff where there's an incentive for them to keep in touch with you and you can automate it. So if you have a more advanced like marketing automation system, then there are more advanced ways to take those people and say, all right, they're on the list and they just came back 9 months later and looked at the services page. Let's send them an email to an ebook talking about buying considerations for our product or service. So those triggers, those more advanced things, that's where the value really is for those long-term sales, I think. But it's really complicated. Like system to visualize in your head what people are going to do over that long cycle. Questions, anybody? Answered them all. Awesome. My job is done here.